try to get a reading in.
Yeah.
So I'm on page 13. Let's see. Starting.
Got muted again.
Jacob.
All right, try it again.
All right.
I was to test my thinking. I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness within. Common sense would thus become uncommon sense.
Yeah.
I was to sit quietly when in doubt, asking only for direction and strength to meet my problems as he would have me. Never was I to pray for myself except as my request bore on my usefulness to others. Then only might I expect to receive, but that would be in great measure. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. Well, I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness within. Yeah, test it and see if it's your thinking. I mean, how do you test your thinking? See if it's yours or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
See if you're the source of it or somehow have a lot to do with it. And if you're not, and what gives you that perspective? Not the thought system, but the God consciousness within, yes? Because the God consciousness within, I would feel it's implying a no thought realm, so to speak, yes? So that from there, you test the thinking. Yeah, you don't test the thinking with the thinking. Just like, Einstein supposedly said, the system that's producing the problem can't be used for a solution to the problem. Yes. So thinking, thinking going over thinking is just more thinking. Yeah. So this is test. I like that statement a lot. Testing. I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness within. So maybe it's almost like one of those pH little strips. Yeah. You put it in, you see it, the acidicness or the alkaline. It doesn't matter what you think, you test it. So now you test it from an outside source, and hopefully you'll see that they're not your thoughts. At least you'll see that a lot of them could be called alcoholic thoughts, which are shared thoughts by alcoholics. Yes. I think that provides a lot of space, I felt, when it happened with me. Because the claustrophobicness or the terminal uniqueness is that wall of my, around all these activities of thinking, feeling, doing, shit like that. The my produces a sense of uniqueness that suffocates us, yeah? And it actually disarms us for having any identification with other sufferers and able to receive any help because we think we're so unique. That nothing, even though it's worked for everyone else, it's not going to work for me, which is what the pinnacle of obsession with self, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're so uniquely different that what's helped every other alcoholic is impossible to help you, yeah, that's a strange altitude. Yeah. You're under the ground thinking you're on top of the world. Yeah. So it's funny. So yeah, I just like to stop with that. And then it's just advice, because we were doing most of the time the opposite. So when in doubt, we didn't sit quietly. We called the deal, or we looked around for change in the couch, or we tried to fucking see who else I could borrow money from to get a drink and shit. So I was to sit quietly when in doubt. That wasn't a habit. Asking only for direction and strength to meet my problems. I was asking for direction to get to the dealers, maybe. Where are you? Tell me.
How long do
Good morning, I don't care. I have a TV to sell you.
how long do I have to wait?
Never was I to pray for myself. And that's, you realize, because you're going to probably, and then you realize it sort of backfires. So we don't usually come into the principles through virtue. It's usually because our exertions fail. So then finally we relent and surrender. But yeah, everyone's praying for themselves usually when they first come in. They can't think of anyone else, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and ask, strength to meet my problems as he would have me. Yeah. Not my old strategies, but in a new way. Yes. Yeah. Never was I to pray for myself. Yeah. Then one might expect to receive, but that would be in great measure. Everyone in recovery has to admit that with a little bit of effort, they get a huge return. So it doesn't have a proportional ratio. Yeah. You show up and you get so much more. Yeah. So it's not a bad deal. Yeah. To get a lot from doing a little is pretty good. The other thing goes the other way. You do a lot to get a little.
Yeah.
Now you're doing a little to get a lot. That's a pretty good switcheroo. Yeah. Who would go back to the old way? I mean, I remember how many hours I spent listening to dealers' life story and watching their hands, hopefully going to the stash or their pocket with the hopes it was pulling out what I wanted. And I would just sit there for fucking an hour listening to the same story I heard about 4 days before. Yes. Please. Oh, great one. Yes, I really concur. Those people are out to get you. Give me that. So, I mean, it's slavery, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is freedom from the bondage of self is freedom from slavery, really. Because being bound to this idea of self, how is that bound? How does that look when you see the activity of it? It's the act of being identified as it. That's the bondage. Yeah. Yeah. It's the bondage. It doesn't say, please relieve me of self. It says, please relieve me of the bondage of self. Selfing can go on, and there doesn't need to be a bondage to it. Yeah. You can see it as an activity. Yeah. Something talking about you as a body all day and you as a loser or hopefully a winner or whatever. Tons of narrations with a lot of critique and a lot of golden oldies. Yeah, you can hear that, but you don't have to live as that. Yeah, so it's the bondage of self. Self is an idea that's mechanically produced by the brain and shit. You don't have to be bound to that idea. That's the great possibility. You can be free from the bondage of self. Yeah. Free from self is fool's gold. That's self trying to get out of self. It doesn't work. Most of us who have used a platform of recovery to look for other ways of transcending have come back from those failed missions to tell you self can't get out of self. Yeah. But there is a possibility to be free from the bondage of self. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, by seeing what you're not. And this is how you see it. You see what you're not from what you are, which is the God consciousness, really. I mean, I can't take us, if you're going to take yourself to be something, I would believe that which is before everything must be you, than something that comes after some shit, yeah? So God consciousness is the ever-present possibility. Why aren't we taking ourselves to be that? Yeah. Yeah, it's the seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. Yeah. We're living a story that we're the see or hear or feel or taste or touch as a fucking body, but it's not a long journey from one to the other, because there's an activity of one and then there's the other at all times available right where you are. Yeah. So you test the thinking through God consciousness. Yeah. What's the first thing that thinking is going to fail? the my. The idea that they're your thoughts is gonna weaken for sure if you test it with God consciousness. Yeah, it is. If you put my thought in the fucking the acid wash, thought will come back up. The my will. The my is the bondage. Thoughts happen, yes, but your thoughts. That's a stretch, don't you think? Really?
Yeah.
Do you really believe that yours? Well, I have a thought, and then there's a lot of thoughts that are completely about my life. Yeah, that's like an algorithm getting tweaked, and then you sort of like you're looking for hernia belts on the internet. You hit the algorithm. The next day, there's hernia belt ads in your thing. How did they know? Ding. Yeah. So one thought is like it triggers an algorithm, and then shit drops. Yeah, programming. It's like the key called Paul gets hit, and then all these fucking advertisements and ideas and shit like that show up. So it seems like, wow, yeah. The first thought triggered a lot of thoughts that were very tailor-made just to my life. But everyone has very similar circumstances, situations. The only difference is the name of a noun. Yeah. You think the algorithms are hitting the algorithms? There's a zillion? No. Self-centeredness is a finite system. Yeah. It just changes the names of locations and times and nouns, but it's the same old, same old. What's driving you crazy is driving me crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like this. I'm going to remember that. Test my thinking by the new God consciousness. Yeah. And then it will be test the thinking with the new God consciousness.
Mhm.
And the thinking tested by the new God consciousness, you'll see if there's an intuitive thought or if there isn't. You'll see if it actually holds water or it doesn't. Maybe you'll have a little bit of instinct discrimination instead of swallowing false evidence and then allowing it to appear real as you. Yeah. That's an incredible possibility. And it's on page 13. How much more is available down the road? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now people say, you shouldn't be talking about all this shit because it's too early. You're advanced, AA. Well, that's a pretty advanced statement on page 13, which is testing your thinking by the new God consciousness within. I mean, that's pretty advanced. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Keeping everything simple, yes, but you're not going to do yourself out of the doer through doing. Yeah, you're not. The doing needs to be corrected so you're not jackpotted all fucking day. But then that allows you to see something. Maybe I wasn't the doer of all this behavior that I'm carrying around guilt and shame about. That's not a simple understanding. You need to see something. Yeah, that's not readily available. Yeah, you have to pierce the curtain, so to speak. Yeah, to get down to the exact nature of the wrong, because the exact nature of the wrong is hocus pocus. It's misdirection. It's false evidence appearing real. That's not simple. False evidence appearing real. It isn't. So, yes, the principles and the way of life and what we do as an action figure is quite simple, but what that simplicity allows us to see is the activity that was going on unbeknownst to us. Yeah. So, yes, in one hand, yes, keep it simple, but on the other hand, I mean, I worked in Buddhism for years, and I never saw that I wasn't the one doing the Buddhism until I did. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. You would think if the delusion was simple, we would see through it easier. Yeah. But it's based on an act of being identified as something. That's not a simple move by a parasite. A parasitical movement to convince you, the host, that you're the parasite is fucking pretty tricky. It seems to work a lot, yeah?
Yeah.
So I think a simple life allows us to have the time and not have the excess drama that keeps us, tuned onto the consequential level. You get to see more by living a life of principle. Yeah, it allows more vision in a way, which is awesome. Yes?
Right.
Yeah, if you're like, going in and out of jail every day, there's so much chaos on the surface. You're sort of absorbed in that. Yeah. It's like a world of survival. Your vision isn't looking up at the stars. Yeah. You're trying to seem to get out of something or get into something all day. Yeah. Yeah. It sucks you in almost into the movie. It's like an action movie every second, even though nothing's really fucking happening. It's like the boredom that looks exciting. I'm busy. I'm busy scheming and conniving, trying to figure out. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for that reading. And remember, we'll end, if you don't mind, a little early. I've got.
What time? 11:20 you were saying?
Yeah, 11:20. Give me a little time to escape to the city.
All right. Well, excellent.
Right.
I think we have a hand up. I just want to say that is so amazing. That idea of the algorithm of self, like it's like a YouTube feed. It's where and one of the things, I might have said this before, but one of the things that most amazed me about being in a clean and sober house and being around addicts for the first time was that they saw what I was going to do before I did it. Like they saw that I was going to relapse or that I was going to try to connive to try to get high before I did. And I thought I was smarter than all these people, but their empathy was at such a level that they could, and they shared the same thoughts. They shared those same algorithms that they saw it before I did, which was amazing to me. Yeah. And
there in the jungle, that's what sets you up to be a mark all the time. Because cunning motherfuckers who are in the world of getting loaded, and they can see you more than you're seeing you.
Yeah.
And then you get jackpotted and you're in jail, and they're yeah. Because we're under a delusion, we know a lot when we don't, and all that stuff. It's just amazing, really. Yeah. Anyone who has alcoholism and has relief from it can see someone with alcoholism, and basically they could have that person just chill out and write the rest of their life story and be pretty play out, really. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not a glorious quality. It's just such a redundant event, people thinking they're drinking successfully, and then one day the craving really is pretty strong and the obsession winds up a little higher than usual, and then they have a couple in a row, and then they're on a run, and then they're fucked. I see it. Now, maybe if you just had trouble with drinking and you've reached a level of life where you have sufficient enough reasons not to do that, then that may work. But if you've crossed that line and you're a real addict, a real alcoholic, that doesn't work. Once that thing kicks in, you're pretty much transportation for it. Yes. I've seen it thousands of times. I've seasoned thousands of times. The person thinks they're in the car, but it's like a self-driving car. The self drives them away. And then you never see them again at a meeting. Wonder what happens. I don't think it got better in most cases. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, the commonality and obviously the otherness that it is from us is easily noticed through repetitive observations of addicts. Yeah. You obviously see that what had you seems to have them. Yeah. And that which had you has the same qualities exhibiting where you were in them. Yeah. So, and it doesn't have an infinite amount of traits. It can be recognized. And you could share it like in a book, big book. And you can describe the attributes of alcoholism so that someone can recognize it. Yeah. And admit to themselves or have an admittance to the innermost that they're screwed. Yeah. And, you know, yeah, because that stubborn delusion they speak about, that thing of, we never read the evidence because there's always an override that if I only manage better, it would work out. So the managing is never suspect because we just keep the parasite just keeps saying, well, it's because you're not doing it better. So keep managing, it's going to work. Yeah. So the evidence is there, but we can't respond to it because the parasite reacts to it and says, no, it's just you are fucking inherently wrong. Something's wrong about you and you can't manage like other people can. So get on with it. Start managing. Yeah. And they quote it as one of the main delusions of alcoholism. Yeah. That thinking that if you could only manage better, things would work out. I mean, how much time on the stage have we given that? Maybe the hook is long overdue, don't you think? Put on the next act. That thing's fucking old. Yeah. So, yeah. I've had a few calls this week, that are perfect illustrations of these qualities. And, if that back isn't broken, sometimes the best way is life sitting on it, and it's you would wish there was other ways that were more trodden, but usually when it's a real stubborn case, it's up to life, to convince us, hopefully. Yeah. So, I mean, if you can, yeah. You would think that getting run over twice by a car would have snapped me out of it. It didn't. Yeah. So I was one of those hopeless cases that needed an divine intervention. I had to be struck sober. It wasn't playing out by, surrendering to circumstances. It was still life in the parasite. It's just gonna keep on going on. So thank God I got struck sober. Because there was no defined bottom in my life.
Yeah.
It was just, I was writing up a new bottom every week. It was just incredible. Yeah. I couldn't, Jesus. And somehow, things that a normal person would stop and be aghast. I just, it was just like a speed bump. I just adapted to worse behavior, basically, and worse conditions.
Yeah.
How low can we go? I'm scared to know, really, tell you the truth. And yeah, so if you keep calling, if the same conditions that were in place that led you to being screwed are still in place now, I think that's what we need to test from the God consciousness. Our navigational system. What the fuck? What were we thinking? What were we? Yeah, because a lot of that comes with us into recovery. Yeah, or it regroups, and so that failed system now still stays as the dominant system. How are you going to really relax in that state? So you have anxiety after 30 years of sobriety still. Yeah. Enjoy peace of mind only in controlled environments, with everything locked in, music on, whatever. Yeah. All these, they're like that trudging the happy destiny is put on a real steep incline. Yes. Because you're still carrying so much weight in the backpack. Fuck. Where's the point we outgrow that old system? And how can it be initiated? Well, we got to test it from the God consciousness. Yeah. See if it's real or not. There's just an assumption, hit it, see if it has a sound that it's real. I don't know he says it right there. This is on page 13. I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness within. You could put a lot of things other than thinking in there. I was to test, my strategies with the new God consciousness. I was to test how true is what I think is true. Yes. By what? Not by the system that's projecting this shit, but from God consciousness, which implies another system, doesn't it? There's self-centeredness, which is a system, and then there's God consciousness. It's not a part of the system of self-centeredness, is it? It implies it's a whole other possibility. And so we test the old employer from the new employer. Yeah. We don't let the old employer do its performance report of the year. Yeah, we let the new employer take the inventory of the old employer. We test it. Yeah. And then we see what's saleable and what's not. And hopefully bring the shit that's not saleable to step 6 and 7 and let it be reconfigured and put to better use. Yeah. We're like a complete recycling event that doesn't have an end day. It just keeps on keeping on. Yeah. More and more stuff is revealed and more stuff gets reconfigured. Yeah. And then the ability to enjoy peace of mind. Maybe it used to take you having to take 10 slow breaths. Now you're right in it. You don't have to take 10 slow breaths. Yes. Because the peace of mind is readily available. Yeah. There's nothing I have to do to get ready to enjoy peace of mind. Wow. I believe recovery progresses. I do. So recovery, all right, I've learned, I've got a mantra and I'm nothing wrong or right with mantras. And then I take 20 deep breaths. If that's what you need to do, it's great to know that you need to do that. But let's say there you are, but it's probably going to progress where the peace of mind will be readily available because you're not holding much stock on the requirements your head is telling you need to meet. Yeah? Yeah. So yeah, let's test the thinking from the God consciousness. Let's look at self's manifestations and how they have defeated us and are defeating us and will defeat us. Yeah. From the God consciousness. And you'll see what's yours and what's not yours. Yeah. And take what's not yours to 6 and 7. And take what yours and surrender to that higher power. Yeah. Also. Yeah. The good and bad. Bingo. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we have a question from Mike Zerbel.
Yes. I thought I had an order on them to take no questions on Mike Zerbel.
Ha!
It's not up right now.
I missed the memo.
Put that up there, yeah.
There's no other hands, so that's why I just wanted to.
My God.
I wanted to add to the aspect of that what some people call "quote unquote" advanced teachings. That it's just getting to the root of the problem, and of course, how much I've appreciated that. But it's not even hard to share with somebody as far as the word God has caused plenty of problems, and even AA's attempt to introduce higher power. Plenty of people in AA feel like that's a bait and switch. So that's never going to get around what you bring up. You got to stop playing God, and how are you going to do that if you're identified as that which is playing God? So why wouldn't a root of the problem be quite a saving grace for a lot of us, as there's plenty of demonstration.
Yes,
So
but sometimes uh, the first thing is to get the action figure straight, so to speak. Yeah, that's keeping it simple. Then there's a recognition that the problem resides in the mind. Yeah, that's not as simple. Yeah, you have to see something. Yeah, and hopefully either you have a flash of light or a traumatic experience that leads you, or you read a book or you hear it, but something has to usually trigger it, yeah, in the person. And then the person now has eyes to see something they weren't seeing, yeah. And then hopefully people and Zooms like this will define it in a certain way that it can't just be washed away in 5 seconds by repeated presentation of it, yes? So that it can be established, though that which wants to be established does not want to see that established. So you use repetition against the thing that uses repetition to reinforce its ideas. We now constantly repeat new ideas to weaken the old system, yes? So that there's truly a loss of interest in self, not as self, but self, just in that. And yeah, I know. See, a lot of times when you present something, other somethings are seen as it's like a war, like it's contrary or it's a conflict. I don't see it that way. I see it as an incredible extension or an illuminating quality. Yeah, so I'm not in any war with anyone's ideas, really. So, but I've always seemed to attract a lot of trouble in my tenure in our community at times. I got like they petrified wood. A lot of people petrified me early by, my name was Buddha Paul, non-self Paul, fourth step Paul. And as soon as they hang a caricature on you, they're not hearing fucking anything anymore. That's what motivated us to put out the website. Seriously. If, yeah. I felt so strongly to get this out because I'm not much of a doer of things, a shaker in the world. Yeah. So it's amazing that 3 books have been issued and we have meetings on Zoom. Really, I can't even find my keys. It takes me about a half hour to get out of the house. I forget shit all the time. And not only about others, but about that are very important to me, supposedly. I forget it. So for all this shit to be squeezed out, something is behind that push, yeah, and it ain't me. And I've had that, I've been on fire about it forever because it was real relief, yeah, and a relief that doesn't need constant vigilance and surveillance and re-upping as if it's draining out every day, so you have to pump more and more into it. No, something that revitalizes itself. Yeah, that God consciousness within is constantly, yeah, it's constantly, yeah. And that's why when in page 84, when they get into some descriptions there about that God consciousness of, hey, we were placed in a position of neutrality with no thought or effort on our part. Yes? Wow. How much of our program has been noticed to have no thought or effort on our part around it? Yeah? But that's basically where we end up in this program. We're placed in a position of neutrality. doesn't exist for us anymore. Fucking unbelievable. Yeah. So that sure sounds like your role in it has become a secondary one, yet you're the expression of that primary influence, which is that, whatever you want to call it, God consciousness, I amness, Buddha nature, God, Christ, whatever. Doesn't matter, but something now is clearly running driving the bus, so to speak. Yeah, that isn't like the old bus driver. Yeah. So, any more questions? Anything?
Yeah, we have a question from Eligio.
Yes.
King Baby asking you to unmute.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Bring it, baby.
Hello, Mike. Hello, everybody. Hey, I'm sorry, Paul. Hey, Paul, I'm struggling with the issue of ethics and morality. Where's the line? People are asking, "Where's your line?" And I'm like, I have no line. I don't believe there's a line. And
Your first what was the first part? You're struggling with what?
with the question of ethics and morality, other people's morality, or morality in the world, because you can't. Everybody's morality is different. And they asked me, "Where's your line?" And I'm like, I don't believe in the line. So I'm struggling with me wanting to do stuff that other people find unethical, and I just do, and they get pissed.
Yeah, maybe you'll learn something from that.
But the person that gets pissed is,
Yeah.
I don't know, just struggling with that.
Just be accountable. If you want to do something and then they don't want to talk to you for a few days, yeah, all right, you were accountable. Instead of blaming someone else or blaming them, you did something. Yeah, could be dicey, but fuck it, and then be accountable for what happened. Oh, a lot of people don't like when I do that. Well, if you're into having people like you, then maybe the behavior will change. If not,
the only person that I care about is the person that's with me, and everybody else can go fuck themselves. So
that's that will get you far, bro. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember, like, we stepped on the toes of others and then they retaliate seemingly without provocation. You're entering that phase, maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep going.
People don't take kindly being fucked, they don't. Yeah. So just don't, you won't be in ignorance of that. You'll know it. So if you want to,
it's more about, it's about more of they're worried about me. They're worried about me. And it's like, no, it's like, don't worry about me, because they're not worried about me. They're worried about what that means to them, that I'm doing whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's on their side. Just stay on your side, and just see. Yeah. Okay. Maybe some of their concern is valid. Who knows?
Who knows? Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. So you just like, I spoke to someone yesterday, and I wanted to point out to them after a while that they did something that got them jackpotted, and it seemed like they didn't call anyone to run the idea by them. Yeah, he calls you after he does it, and then he's in jail and shit. Yeah, so that little stubbornness or defiance, where makes the person who's there attempting to support them frustrated, because there's a dishonesty there. They're not just telling the truth. Yeah. If the idea was so good, why would you not call somebody about it? Yeah. Well, because something wanted to do something. Yeah. Like the same thing. You could see the percentage of parasitical movement in there. Yeah. And you can talk all around that, but unless that's noticed, yeah, and told the truth about, yeah, there's going to be that hiccup, yeah. And we used to make a simple definition of an alcoholic and a recovered alcoholic. You know, the alcoholic calls you after they drink, and the recovered alcoholic calls you before they drink. Yeah, it's truly that simple in some respects. Yes, so we can dance around certain things for hours and trying to figure out why, but if that defiance in you, if there isn't that admittance of the first step, like they say, perfectly, yes, and if there's that drive to do it your way, you better learn to be accountable, because shit's probably gonna hit the fan, yeah. And then I don't want to go over the shit and the speed of the fan for hours. I don't, because yeah, the problem isn't there. The problem is what insanity moves you to do something that you know is going to jackpot you. Take away the drugs and alcohol, because that addiction's in a lot of people. Yeah. And so what is that? And tell the truth about that. Yeah. Just admit that you're overmatched, obviously, because you think you know what's going on and you believe that should have stopped you from doing it. It doesn't. Yeah. You've studied it. That hasn't. You know, you're like a professor of holes who keeps falling in the holes. What's the fucking point? That knowledge is what we call self-knowledge. It's availing you nothing. Yeah. Get to the root of it. Yeah. Yeah. And admit that you're not willing to surrender. Yeah. Great. Yeah. That's a surrender in and of itself. So at least you now have you're starting at the actual point where you seem to be, and then things will become clearer. Yeah. But, yeah. I didn't read it, you know. When I would do stuff and I'd have instant fucking karma, like they say, I was oblivious to the connection. Something was trying to tell me, pull over, you know what I mean? But the driving just kept happening. So when I see other people doing the same thing, I know something has them, yeah? Something is driving through all the stop signs. And so at that point, there's just an admittance of being overmatched, you know? You just, fuck, yeah, I can't stop doing what I'm doing, yeah? We're not going to get into are you the doer of it, but just an admittance of that, yes? Yeah. And then I find things can change just when that, it says that, you know, you have to, some people are unconstitutionally just, they can't be honest with themselves, yeah? But there's a lot of us that we're not being honest with ourselves, but there's an ability to be honest, yeah? And to be honest is basically I'm outmatched, yes? Yeah. Yeah.
So we have about 5 more minutes here, Paul.
Yeah.
Do you want to take one more question before we go?
Sure. I'm gonna put on my shoes and get ready.
Right. And anyone who still has their hand up, if you want to stick around after the meeting, we have a meeting after the meeting, or just bring your question to the next meeting. Up we have Nanette. Nanette, asking you to unmute.
Nanette, how are you? Yeah.
Hi. Hey, Paul. Thank you. Wow, thank you. Whew. And I don't even have to understand anything, but these meetings, they speak through. They just speak right through. And you said something, and you kind of answered it. But I guess I'm just going to maybe just hear it for myself. It's that this parasitical movement can begin to recreate the same old garbage even after you're sober, and that self can't get out of self, and I'm not so I can't even get myself out of it. And you just simplified it. It like went into my soul. It really is just the admittance of complete defeat, and it's like, oops, I made a mistake, but I'm not mistaken. I asked the Holy Spirit to correct my perception, And really, it's not that I'm going to really, and trying to, I think you said it in one of your talks about, you know, analyzing the trees and not looking at the whole forest kind of thing. And,
Yes.
and it really is, you know, like I've watched some things in the past several years where even though my motives were good, they were still based on self. I was like, holy shit, you know, but it was like with the God consciousness, there was a huge spotlight going down to the bottom of the basement where the calls were coming from. And it was like an explosion. And when I'm hearing your talks, there's like explosions going off like on the inner landscape of my soul, so to speak. And it's like beyond anything that's in this region up here. So really, I was just thinking about like on the fourth column of the fourth step, like how I set the ball rolling. Would you say it's just like resting and looking at that, and then just knowing that I'm not going to fix it? Just the knowingness that I'm not going to be the fixer of it.
Well,
Yes.
yeah. And as an activity, see, let's say in your life as an action figure, recovery has taken you out of hell and brought you to a much nicer place. So there's a lot of power in that feeling of gratitude and just love for the program. Yes. So when you do the steps, you're doing it with all that. So it may look like it's a formal activity, but there's so much juice in it because of your own experience coming out of hell and being freed from the bondage of self. That has a lot of power. So you bring the shit to step 6 and 7. Yeah. And you truly believe in over time that that's all that's necessary. You just admit. And if those behaviors have caused a problem and I feel it in my gut, I make an amend. Yeah. And that amend is that I'm willing not to do this to you or anyone else ever again. So let's see what happens. Let's see if it works. And it usually does. Yeah. That behavior stops maybe one more time or so, but then it dies. Yeah. So 6 and 7, it's like somebody used to talk to me about anytime they thought about the third step, they remember this time where they were pulling up onto the freeway and something diverted them and pulled over. And then there was this huge, huge crash. So for them in their life, they believed that higher power did that. Yeah. So every time they would go to that feeling of the third step, they remember that feeling of seeing that incredible accident and they were saved from it, so to speak. Yeah. They had a lot of oomph in it. Yes. So our own, all that has been done through us and to us has juice. So when you bring shit to 6 and 7, that energy that's frozen in that old posture gets reconfigured. Yeah. And then you feel more alive, obviously. And you can't feel more alive by jumping off a bridge with a bungee cord every day. It's fucking, my ankles will probably break. Yeah. So you may not be able to feel. And now a lot of times for you to feel alive is going to cost you a lot of money. You got to get the squirrel suit. You got to get da. But just to feel alive now is incredibly valuable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, and engaged in that activity, yes, of seeing, of awareness. So, yeah, you do that. You see that something is doing for you what you can't do for yourself, and you expand on what you can't do for yourself. That's all, more and more.
Right.
So then you travel lighter as the action figure. Yeah. Because you come to realize you're not getting out of it until the point of death. Yeah. The action figure is going to be sticking around. And on the experience level, it's the bigger player. Yeah. You can have pain and then all your high ideals will be taken to that point of pain. Yeah. And then without knowing it, hopefully knowing it, the mental state will extend that pain into suffering and you'll have a field day. So, yeah. So the traveling lighter as an action figure is an incredible, valuable commodity. Yeah. While you're experiencing life as an action figure. And and the experiential level, the action figure has a huge role. On other levels, yes, it doesn't, but on that, in this movie, yeah, where the rocks feel real and the cliff it looks like it's 1,000 feet, and yes, it's traveling lighter is valuable. So yeah, I bring all the feeling I have to the spirit of 6 and 7 when I see what I'm not in others or here, and let that get used. Yeah, put it to better. Yeah. So yes, Nanette. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, honey. Yeah. Yes. All right. Well, let's say goodbye and take off. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you. Hey, Jacob, thanks so much for running the show today.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nessa, always a pleasure, honey. Tommy, Michael, Z. Mike, I'll call you when I'm in the city. See what we're going to do or I'm going to do. I don't know yet. Paul, nice to see you, Paul. Yeah. T-shirt against T-shirt. Touche. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see what this one is. Oh, it's not bad.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
Sit back, Paul, and just rest in the glow. We got Connor from Ireland. Nice to see you, Connor. James
Yeah.
about. We're blessed with his appearance. Always nice to see you, James. We got Bo. Bo, yeah. Take care of that fifth step. We got John from Australia. We got Stefan on Having Never Left. Rich A, always a pleasure with his significant other. Helen, always a pleasure, honey. Jack G, Joseph, Roman, Mickey, Nanette, Nina, fantastic. Thanks for the help. Walter, the 2 Hudson Valley beauty winners. There they are. Yes. Sarah, Alex, yes. Having a little, probably homegrown something. Yeah. All right. Leah, always a pleasure. Terry from Maine, nice to see you. Malcolm, nice to see Malcolm. Yeah.
Hey, brother.
Chris looks like he's in a good wave in Mammoth Lakes. I didn't know they had waves in Mammoth Lake. Yeah, it's a nice shot. Oliver from Berlin. Eligio, just keep coming back, yeah? Just don't drink and use. And man, King Baby is gonna get a whole new set of diapers. Yeah, you'll be happy. We got from Seattle. Yeah, everyone, if I didn't say your name, I say thank you. And I'll see you guys later. See you. There's, Sarah and Alex. See you, girls. Yep. Bye. See you guys. See you, everyone. Adios.
Bye, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Be safe.
Thank you.
Be lucky. Bye. See you.